Hi, I'm Paleo Paul. Welcome to Dinosaurs 101. You know, I have a lot of folks come up and ask me, Paul, because that's my name. They say, Paul, what can you tell me about dinosaurs? Well, a lot. Today we're going to talk about what exactly is a dinosaur. Where did they come from? What were they like? And where do they all go? I'm going to talk about some really famous dinosaurs you may have heard of before. I'm going to talk about some not so famous ones. I'm going to talk about some really weird ones. I'm also going to give you guys some pointers on how to get started drawing your own dinosaurs. So, let's get started. This is a fossil. A fossil is the remains of a living thing from a previous time period. A fossil can be anything from a shell like this to a bone or a tooth, or a fossil can even be a trace of a living thing like a footprint or the impression of a leaf in rock. The funny thing about fossils is that they're not actually shell or bone or tooth anymore. They become mineralized over time. That means all the stuff that was once alive becomes replaced with rock. Scientists who study fossils are called paleontologists. Since dinosaurs aren't around anymore, well, with one exception, but we'll get to that later, everything we know about them comes from their fossil remains. We found dinosaur bones, dinosaur teeth, dinosaur eggs, dinosaur footprints, and even dinosaur droppings. You know, it took a lot of luck for a dinosaur to become a fossil. First, after it died, it had to be covered up by a layer of dirt, ash, sand, or silt before it could decompose or be eaten by scavengers. Then, it had to be replaced by minerals over millions of years. Finally, it had to be uncovered by a natural process like erosion, which is weathering, so somebody could find it. So how do you find fossils? Well, you have to look. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about how to draw dinosaurs. Drawing dinosaurs is probably the most fun part of studying dinosaurs, and I want to start today with Tyrannosaurus rex, since he's probably the most famous dinosaur you've ever heard of. So let's begin. So when you're drawing a dinosaur like T-Rex, we know he's a theropod, so let's start with kind of a little oval here. And you can use paper, you can use a chalkboard or a dry erase board, anything you want to use. But we start with this little oval shape right here, and then we know all the theropod dinosaurs, they were two-legged, and they had a really long tail that they held out behind them. So start with this oval, and let's draw a tail. Okay, so we've got that. We've got his body, that's going to be the oval, and then we've got his tail. So you want to keep it kind of horizontal like this. Then you want to give him a head. So let's just draw another oval shape for the head right over here. T-Rex had a really big head, even for theropod dinosaurs. His is one of the biggest heads. So we've got a head, we've got a body, we've got a tail, and then he has legs, and those legs are kind of bird-like. So let's start with some triangles here. And then he's got kind of like chicken legs. He's got a little drumstick right here, another little drumstick right here, and another stick right here. This is his ankle, so this is his ankle bone. And then we give him 3 claws, just like a bird. It's already starting to look like T-Rex. Okay, now let's connect that head to the body, give him a little neck. All the theropod dinosaurs had a little S-curved neck, so kind of like a bird. It has a little bit of a swoosh to it, a little bit of an S-curve. Okay, and while you're going, you can kind of erase some of your lines if you want. Those lines are just sort of to help us find the shapes that we want to find here in T-Rex, but you don't need them forever, because when you're finished, you're not going to see them. Okay? So we know that was the shape of his leg. Here's his other leg. Now I've got his head. Right now it's just kind of a boring oval shape. But what did T-Rex's head look like? This is where you don't want to imagine too much. You kind of want to look at a picture. So it might help if you look at a picture of T-Rex's skull, if you find it in a book somewhere, or maybe on the internet. So I happen to know, I happen to have remembered just exactly how T-Rex's skull looks. So he's got, this is his eye socket right over here. And he's got some other funny little holes in his skull. erase as I go so I know I'm getting the shape right. You know what? Let's draw him with his mouth open like he's roaring, okay? Made that a little long. There we go. Okay? And T-Rex had really big teeth. It's important to remember T-Rex's teeth were some of the biggest of any of the meat eaters. So already you can see T-Rex is taking shape. He's two-legged, he's got a head, he's got a tail. What's he missing? Arms. Now T-Rex, if you've seen him, you know he's got these tiny little arms and he only has 2 fingers on each hand. So these arms were real small. He couldn't even reach his mouth with those arms, so he couldn't use them to eat or hunt. Basically, they just sort of dangled from his side. So already we have a pretty good T-Rex. So it's starting to take shape here. You want to erase some of your lines. Okay, but he's got a skull for a head. You want to fill in that skull and make him look like he was alive. So let's take away some of those lines, but just so we know where things like his eye might have been. And leave a little bit so you know what some of those shapes were. Fill in his nose there. This hole right here, get rid of that one. Give him a little ear right over here. Some people draw T-Rex with little horns kind of on his skull because his skull had a lot of rough surfaces, so we think he had little horns over his eyes and on the tip of his nose. So I like to give my T-Rex some horns. You can do all sorts of other creative things with T-Rex. You can give him little scales that go down his back. We don't know that he had those, but we also don't know that he didn't have those. So it's a perfectly fine thing to do if you're drawing a dinosaur. And you could give him spots, maybe. He could have been camouflaged. This is going to be my polka dot T-Rex. And I don't have any color, but you guys can take your crayons or your colored pencils and you could color them in, and then you're going to have a finished T-Rex.